Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. It is fantastic that you are here. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video from Carrie Underwood, and certainly through her song Temporary Home, we asked the question about whether the essence of who we are carries on in some form when we leave this world. It's an interesting thing to contemplate. Well, we go from there to a bunch of guys that were formed in 1976 in Boston. We had Rick on guitar and vocals, Benjamin on bass and vocals, Elliot lead guitar, Greg keyboards, and David as on drums. And it was a very consistent lineup. In fact, that was the lineup pretty well through this whole band's career. They were very much in the new wave power pop category. And the band I'm talking about is the Cars. So the band, the Cars. And we think of Rick Ocasek as the driving force, creative driving force behind the Cars that created this new wave power pop genre that they pretty well had all to themselves because you couldn't put the Cars into a category. Now, between 1978 and 2011, they released 7 albums, and there were 26 singles amongst those 7 albums and 20 videos, because certainly around the time that the Cars were pretty big, MTV was a bit of a thing and you just had to do videos as part of your performing. Now, such classics as Just What I Needed, My Best Friend's Girl, Let the Good Times Roll, and You Might Think, amongst many others. They have a catalogue that just goes on and on and on. Very catchy power pop songs. Now, there's a little bit of tragedy with the Cars because Rick Ocasek did die in 2019, and Benjamin Orr died in the year 2000. And one of the albums in the Cars catalogue was actually released after Ben's death. I think this just needed to put a bit of a closure to the band, and so they released the album after Ben's death. They were very humbled, I think, to receive a nod from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2018. So they are Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees as well. Now, when you talk about the Cars, there's really one album you have to be able to talk about, and that's this one here. When I first heard this album, I was absolutely blown away by it. For me, from my way of thinking, is one of the albums of the 1980s, and is the classic Heartbeat City. Now, one of the things about the Cars was their really innovative and creative album covers, and certainly this one is no exception. Songs like Magic, You Might Think, Hello, and the classic Drive are songs that became staples on radio in the 80s and still played even more, even now, I'm thinking. Incredibly technologically advanced for the Cars as well. They really stepped up the production in this album in particular, and these songs are timeless, I'm thinking. Now, there's one song in particular of Heartbeat City that we need to talk about today, and this song was actually sung by Benjamin Orr, and this is the song Drive. Who's going to tell you things aren't so great? Who's going to pay attention to your dreams? Who's going to drive you home tonight? I think the best way to get into these lyrics, and we'll get onto the clip in a minute, is to perhaps tell it through a story. Now, I'm just going to pick a girl's name out of my head. Let's say Jessica. Now, if there are any Jessicas out there, my apologies for that. It's just the first name that pops into my head. Now, Jessica was a young 21-year-old, life of the party sort of girl, stunningly beautiful, and everyone just hung out for Jessica to rock up. She just had that compelling nature about her. She was a girl that never really stood still. She tended to go through the boyfriends a bit, and so she'd give them a little bit of time and then she'd move on to the next thing. She was having too much fun to settle down too much. And so it was another weekend, and there she was looking at herself in the mirror, and she was making sure every hair was in place, the makeup was just perfect, the clothes were just right, and she was going to go out for a night like she always did. Well, she got to the place, and she met a couple of friends, and they said, "Hi Jessica, how are you? It's good to see you." Conversation never really went much further than that with Jessica, because she was too preoccupied with everything else to really want to connect with people that much. As long as people saw her and she was seen, that's all that mattered. Well, the last guy she went out with, let's call him Jonathan. Um, that had lasted a little bit longer, and just something about Jonathan had snuck through to her emotions a bit. But, in normal, typical Jessica fashion, she kind of had a bit of fun and then she moved on. Well, that particular night, when she was at the club just having a drink with her friends, she saw Jonathan over in the corner, and he was engrossed in deep conversation with a couple of his mates and a couple of other girls, and they seemed to be having a great time. A part of her kind of wished she was over there with them, just over there, part of the group. But she was in amongst girls who were just giving her just a bit of conversation here and there, but she was missing that deep conversation. And probably for the first time she realised that despite her looks and despite her outward, outgoing nature, she was starting to feel lonely inside. At one time during the night, Jessica did catch Jonathan's eyes, and their eyes met for a moment, and then Jonathan just went back to his conversation. And Jessica started to feel really, really, really empty at this point. Well, eventually, Jonathan and that group left the place, and and Jessica's friends started to go to, and there was only one left. And after a while, she said, "Oh, I'm going to go, Jessica. I'll catch you around. See you next time. Good to see you." Jessica was left in the bar on her own. Now, she had been in this situation before. She tended to outlast people, and as she looked around for another group to sort of get in on, there wasn't really anybody around, and she was left alone at the bar. She expected a guy to come up to her and chat her up and say hi, but nobody came up to her. She was just standing there alone. She started to feel really, really uncomfortable, and she went to the toilet and she looked at herself in the mirror. Yes, she was still looking pretty good. She went back out, but there was nobody there. There was no one waiting for her, and it was just empty. And she started to realise that she was not good inside. Something had changed. Jonathan had changed her. She wished she had gone home with him, but he had left without her. The feeling of emptiness and the feeling of sadness started to overwhelm her, and she just left, got into a taxi and went home. I don't know what Jessica's story will be. Hopefully she will make some realisations and make some changes. We'll see what the next few videos come out. Jessica may get a lifeline, but we'll see where the songs actually go from this place forward. What the song Drive is all about, it's all about people who just can't settle. It's about people who are more concerned with their looks than with connecting with other people. They think their looks are the things that are going to get them through, but people are starting to give them a wide berth because there's just no connection, there's no depth, and so there's loneliness instead. The song Drive just asks question after question. Who's going to pay attention to your dreams? Who's going to drive you home tonight? When are you going to admit that things aren't so great? Who's going to tell you this stuff? Who are you going to listen to about this stuff? Because the sad fact is for the Jessicas of this world, and again, if your name is Jessica, I'm apologising. I'm not actually pointing you out specifically. It's just the name I came up with. Who's going to tell you that things aren't so good? When are people going to tell you that your looks, even though they're stunning, it's just not enough? We're looking for something deeper, and very easily we can see with the ability that we have to connect whether there is depth there or not. Human beings are really good at catching you out when you think you're going to rely on that and nothing else. Human beings need more than that. And certainly I don't think any of us want to be a Jessica. We don't, or a Jonathan, or a Sam, or whatever your name is. We don't want to be that. We want to be people that can connect with others. But in order for connection to happen, we have to be vulnerable and we have to be willing to let people in. Otherwise, we'll be lonely on our own. So I think the challenge for us today, and if you are going out tonight and you're thinking you're going to try the same old thing, just make sure you look good. Well, may I suggest that maybe another way to look at it would be, how can I connect tonight? And you might find some pleasant surprises in the conversations that you have, because we all desire connection and we all desire conversation, and it's through being real that those things will happen. Now, the video for Drive, now I may as well get on to the clips now. We do have the official clip for Drive. Again, came off Heartbeat City in 1984, and Benjamin Orr as the lead vocalist, he's just the voice for this particular song. He's just sitting at a table, and as he watches this girl just unravel in front of him, she goes from being this beautiful, stunning girl to someone who's just holding it together at the end, because he realises that she's on her own. The Cars in their typical artistic fashion have really painted a really graphic story of the girl who is at the middle of this Drive story. So as you watch the clip, I trust that some of it, if you are in this situation yourself, some of it might resonate with you, and you think about how you might be able to do life differently. We cannot talk about the Cars without talking about the song Drive. This was a breakthrough song for them, quite different for them, and it enabled and got played on radio so many times. So I would just, consider Drive as you consider your own story. Well, the other clip, we've got Hello. This also came off the Heartbeat City album of 1984. I could have put You Might Think in there as well, because that's another classic Cars song. This is a live clip of this one, so you get to see the Cars as they would be performing on stage, and just how carried away the fans are getting. The Cars were the all-round performers, fantastic vocals, fantastic harmonies, very good musicianship. The guy on keyboards just had a way of creating musical landscapes to complement what the Cars were doing. And so this is a live version of Hello. We've also got Shake It Up, which came off the album of the same name in 1981. This is a very well-known Cars song, probably really shot them into worldwide fame a bit as well. That's a live version of that song, so again, enjoy that particular one. And I thought I'd just give Benjamin Orr a little bit of focus as well, because apparently when he recorded Drive, the producer just needed him to get it just right. He was a bit of a perfectionist, and Benjamin Orr had to do a number of takes to get Drive right. It wasn't because of Ben's vocals, it was because of the pedanticness of the producer. So because of that, I thought I'd give Benjamin Orr a bit more of a go. And he did release the Lace as an album in 1987 as a solo album. And there's a beautiful song, typical 1980s Stay the Night. Is just a beautiful song that Benjamin Orr released in his own right. So all of the links to all of those songs are in the description below. So I encourage you to look at any of those or all of those, particularly Drive. If you are finding that my story of Jessica has just got to you a bit, you may need to watch the video. Because sometimes what grabs our attention, guys, sometimes it's not the nice stuff that grabs our attention and forces us to take action. My hope for all the Jessicas out there would be that you would look for connection as opposed to looks. This is the decisions that sometimes we need to make. Well, that's it for today. If you've come back for another video, thank you very much for doing so. You're always very welcome to come back. And if this is your first time to Life Reflections Through Music, welcome to the channel. The aim of this channel is just to be an encouragement in your life journey. And as we've looked at the story of Jessica today, I really trust it will be an encouragement for you. Well, that's it for today. Next time we're going to go back to classical as we consider the Baroque composer Tommaso Albinoni. So until then, I'll catch you around.